Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, bismillah. Okay, mashallah. Can everyone hear me well and see the screen? We will start right away. The Q&A session, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, sisters. If you can hear me, can you let me know, please? You can hear me well and see the screen, yeah, inshallah. Okay. Okay, we will start now, inshallah. So this will be just, inshallah, relaxed chit chat. I have already received the questions. Some of you submitted questions. I tried as much as I can to answer by email, and we'll just go over some of the most frequently asked questions here during this live, inshallah. So if you can see the screen, I just put some questions on the screen. If you can see it, yes, inshallah. So question number 1. When a child spills milk, I'm not supposed to ask him why, then what to say? Just ignore and be calm. This practice of scolding is in my blood. How will I get rid of it? Okay, this is very, very common thing that happens, right? So number 1, I would say, what age is this child? And the first thing to note, to be aware, is that he's not doing it intentionally. Okay, so he's not consciously, his brain is not going, now what more can I do to stress out my mum? Let me spill the milk, right? So he's not intentionally spilling the milk, but as a parent, as a mother, you perceive it to be this way. Why? Due to your own upbringing. So you can, what to do in this situation? Just ask him to be more careful and clean up the mess. But if you look internally, why is this causing you intense negative emotion? Like, you cannot tolerate any accidents, incidents, childish behavior. Perhaps when you were growing up, there was no room to fail. Or perhaps when you messed up, when you made mistakes, that your parents or your caregivers approached these as moments of disaster and not like teachable moments. And really, these disasters that really defined who you really are. So remember yourself, as a young girl, when you messed up, did you do it intentionally? Or was it an accident? Or was it childish behavior? So the problem is, very young children make a lot of accidents, right? They do a lot of things, like they pee in their pants, they break glass, they spill milk, they spill water, food, etc. None of this is intentional. We need to stop perceiving this as a threat. As they grow older, they show more childish behavior. Maybe they start being silly or funny in their own ways. They have certain way of walking or talking, right? These things may irritate you because they trigger you. They serve as a trigger to remind you of your own insecurities and vulnerabilities. So in her book, When Your Child Drives You Crazy, the author Ida Lishan talks about a young boy, who was afraid of dark. A young boy who always was afraid of dark, and he always used to ask his parents if he can sleep with the lights on. And he was always told that there's nothing to be afraid of. Why are you crying? Why are you making such a big fuss? Stop that this minute. There's nothing to cry about. So over the years, he learned how to repress his fear of the dark, and then he became a father himself. So he's being interviewed in this book. And now he had a son. And to his nightmare, his son was scared of the dark. So he always asked if the lights could be left on. And he says it would boil my blood and I would start screaming and yelling. And that's why he went to therapy. And, that I didn't know where this irrational behavior came up. I was acting on impulse. I didn't know what was happening to me, especially since I myself was always afraid of the dark as a young boy. And I always used to ask for the lights to be left on. So, it should have been easy for him, if you think about it, to relate to his son, to his feelings, right? So even though consciously he could relate, unconsciously his son triggered his worst nightmare, like his own vulnerable side. So as a father who was told self-repression, not self-regulation, he also carried on the same pattern, right? So he didn't heal from his own childhood wounds. But this is awareness, right? If you look at internally, that self-awareness is very, very important. This is step one. So what are your childhood wounds? What parenting practices didn't serve you, but you are now just recycling them because you don't know any better. This is how you were raised. So, assuming that children act with bad intentions by default, like spilling milk is intentional, and perceive their every behavior to be a threat, this is irrational thinking, if you think about it consciously, and it has no basis. So now we have to change, let go of that false belief and make another belief that children are born with good intentions by default. They don't wake up thinking that what can I do today to make my mom's life a bit more difficult. It's you, a lot of the time, I should say we all do this. We perceive it that way. We perceive children's accidents, incidents, childish behavior to be a threat. Perhaps our own parents were always exhausted, miserable, overwhelmed around us, and we internalized that it was our fault, right? And you as a child, for example, may have internalized the thought that you made your parents' lives full of inconveniences and burden to them, etc., etc. So being aware of your trigger is very, very, very important, where it comes from. And question number 2, my daughter has the habit of ending up in wrong company, and you mentioned that we should not make bad assumptions about children because it may actually happen. Now she goes to university and she smokes. What can I do? Just ignore and be lovable. Now, you cannot ignore and be lovable. Okay, you have to ask your daughter, what is one thing you can do to help her stop smoking? You should focus on building a relationship and not making her stop smoking, because the power of parenting comes from a child's desire, wanting to belong to you. And that's what Dr. Gabor Mate says in his book, Hold On to Your Children. Parenting is not a role, it's a relationship. So everything should be built on a relationship. So for that, you need to build a relationship. How? Number 1, by showing empathy and understanding. I know she's smoking. I know as a parent it's very painful to watch your child, smoke or do anything, bad habit. Because at the end of the day, they're harming themselves, right? And you know better. But again, why, look back. Try to trace back. She's been continuously asked to repress herself growing up. Maybe her feelings and emotions were never acknowledged or validated. Maybe she was never allowed to make a mistake. There was no room to fail. Perfectionism was expected of her. Now, all of these impact the development of the brain. And then this is if you read about addictions, they say in order to numb and escape from the pain, she may have turned to smoking. Perhaps, she never feels unconditionally accepted by her parents. She may have become rebellious. So you really need to sit down and have an honest conversation. And if you need to apologize, say just you were trying your best and you didn't know any better. If you've made any mistakes, you are ready to make up. Now you are trying to understand her. Smoking is just an escape. She doesn't really, she's not doing it to make you angry. This is the point. She's doing it to escape from the pain and numb some of negativity in her life. And really, if you can afford, get a therapy, but you as a parent show understanding first. So regulate her emotions, relate to her experience, and then reason. Remember the 3 R's? Explain the dangers of smoking and how it harms her physically or otherwise. But if we just keep on lecturing without regulating and relating, then she will never learn anything. She won't learn. She needs to be, feel seen, heard, understood first and foremost. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Sister Afreen. How are you? I'm just going through the questions that was emailed to me or sent by social media, and then inshallah we will take on more questions from the audience. Yeah, inshallah. And so next question, my youngest son and daughter, they are very stubborn. They refuse to listen. They say no. I end up scolding, hitting. My other kids used to listen at their age, and they refuse to go to school or daycare, etc., etc. Now, number one, it's normal. Again, Ida Lishan in her book, When Your Child Drives You Crazy, has a chapter about when your child says no. Number one, don't compare younger children to older children. All kids are different. I know we tend to do it a lot, but they come with different temperaments, characteristics, the very unique character traits. And it's very normal for children at that age to say no, because one of the signs of saying no is child trying to explore and understand their own sense of self. So around the age of 3, if you look into child psychology, around the age of 2 or 3, even the most compliant children, the ones who used to say yes, yes, yes all the time, they start saying no more often. Why? Because they've just realized that they don't have to comply with parents' wishes all the time. They have just found out they have their own will. Will is basically willpower as a decision-making mechanism. It's in the left brain and the right brain. So, in fact, if your child never says no, I think it should be one of the things that should, scare you. And imagine if a child switch your thinking, if your child never said no, right? And as a parent, this would make our lives so much easier as a mother. Anything that you ask, yes, 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 but it would make their lives so much harder in the long run. Remember, your child is going to school, they're going to college, later they go to have a job, and they have no strong will of their own, willpower. So because they've been trained to say yes, yes, yes all the time, now they can't stand their own grounds. Somebody offers to smoke, yes. Someone insults, or someone says mean things, yes. Why do you expect them to say yes all the time? Because as a parent, we want complete obedience. But if they comply all the time, how will then they develop their own willpower? It doesn't happen. So they need to have, in order for willpower to develop, they need to be given options. And choosing to say no is really equal to say, can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay. And yeah, I was just this morning, I was writing about people pleasing. You know, this is one of most adults suffer from people pleasing because they have been trained to say yes, 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 yes all the time to their parents. And you know how much pain this will cause them, like this causes them. And so one way of overcoming frustration is understanding why a child says no. It's not because they want to make your life hell. It's because they want to discover their own self and develop their willpower. It is in their fitrah. You know, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, you and I, with a very, very unique decision-making mechanism that's called will. It's the muscle of the brain. So understand, yeah? So it's not a threat. You know, we personalize things and we take it as a threat as a parent. Now, secondly, give them a sense that they can choose. For example, if your daughter refuses to go to school, you can say, again, applying the 3RR, regulate. I understand you are very sad. I know you don't want to go to school. It would be so wonderful if you could just stay home. You know, we just played all day long. I'd love to do that, but then I have to cook you a nice meal. I have to clean your room too. So when you come from school, I'll make sure to do something special, like 2-3 minutes. And then give them the option. Now, do you want to run to the car or walk to the car? Shall I carry you? So she thinks that she's being understood. She's being seen, and she also has an option. Like she thinks that she's choosing to go to school. You know, when you say like, you want to walk to the car or do you want to run to the car? So she thinks that she's choosing. And most of the time, if you think of, like ways to say, the children will comply. So like often mothers complain that, oh, my child refuses even simpler things, like I say, put on your hat, and I'll say no. But if you say like, oh, do you want to put your hat on like this or like this? You know, like show different ways, and they think that they're being given option and they'll comply because they think they're choosing, not being forced upon, right? So the 3RR, regulate, relate, and reason is very, very important. Very, very important. Remember, regulate. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. Just take a deep breath. Think about this. And then relate. You show understanding. Yeah, I know you are sad. I know you want to smoke because you want to escape negativity in your life. I know you are angry because you don't want to go to school. And then reason. Smoking is very harmful to your health, but school is where you will learn lots of interesting things. You make friends, right? And this is how we switch on the child's learning brain. So the train RRR until you master it. Regulate, relate, reason. Right? Inshallah. So let's move on to the next question. How to encourage children to study about their deen and follow it in a non-Muslim environment where there is so much distraction and haram temptation outside, though we can teach them at home. Just one thing, modeling. Modeling. There's nothing as powerful as modeling. And the Prophet ﷺ said, you should all stick to your homes at the time of fitna. So if you maintain that atmosphere at home where everyone feels safe and secure being themselves, they have that sense of belonging, they can just breathe and be themselves, not constantly being criticized, belittled, humiliated, verbally abused, then you have won, and really there are three things that can influence anybody's character, apart from qadar, obviously. The genes, they say genes, and atmosphere, environment, like culture and society in large. And number three, people in your life, like in your early childhood. And out of the three, the most strong factor is people. So children get mostly influenced, first and foremost by their primary caregivers. So modeling is very, very important. Next, why do children copy bad manners so easily among siblings themselves, friends, and when they see other kids at park, they copy everything, but not so good manners. That means I need to work hard to teach them, unlearn those manners afterwards. Can others feel, can others relate to this? Do you feel that children copy bad manners more often than good manners, or easily than good manners? It is mainly, children do pick up good habits as well, but perhaps not as easily, because parents, we don't tend to praise the good behavior as much as we tend to criticize the bad behavior. So we bring it more and more to their conscious, the first one. The number two is they, children imitate everything, good or bad. They have very strong desire to be part of something, like a group, part of, we're social creatures. If you think about it, all of us are social creatures. So children will imitate the behavior of others to appear as though they are part of that group, good or bad. Yes, do you need me? Okay. Close the door. Okay, and how can you stop that? How can you stop that is, most of the time you can host the play dates. Like, you don't have to send your children to play at their friend's house. You can minimize it, how often your child goes to friends or goes out to meet up with friends or goes out to cinema. Like, minimize as much as you can and try to host play dates or, I don't know, cinema nights at your own house, and invite the specific, be very, very selective about who to invite. Okay, and set house rules, and mainly just cut back on play dates or outings if you think that's being a bad influence. But know that children copy everything. They want to be part of a group. They want to, have that sense of belonging. And that's why if they get that anchoring at home, then you have won the lottery. How can I regulate myself when I'm sad? I don't know what to do about it. It really paralyzes me. I think we've had a few questions like that about repression, basically. A few questions about self-repression, like I don't know how to manage my emotions or master my emotions. So again, self-regulation, yeah? Self-regulation. And it's something that we have never been taught. And in fact, most of us have been taught self-suppression, because I think it's true, many of us come from a cultural background where emotions are completely dismissed. So it's not something that's talked about, it's not even a thing. So perhaps you were not allowed to be angry, sad, or anxious as a child. Perhaps you were told statements like, "Oh, you're very bad to be angry with me. You're very selfish to feel sad, for something so small." So these were then guilt-producing feelings. And on top of that, many of the child raising books, experts, parenting experts, like they offered very anti-child solutions. Like, we were told to feed by the schedule, for example, rather than to feed on demand, or cold turkey sleep training, rather than co-sleeping and timeouts. This is very dangerous, rather than co-regulation or teaching them regulate their feelings. So these are the very reasons why you grow up to suppress your emotions, because if you show your emotions, then your relationship with your parents is at stake. And as a child, no child can endure the thought, especially young children. They can't endure the thought of being unacceptable, like being left out, all alone in the world, except especially to their primary caregivers. They depend, for their very survival, they depend on parents, right? So can you just imagine a young child's one and only anchor in the entire world is a parent, a guardian. And God forbid, if this child has any negative feelings, then they become unacceptable. So we go through this conditioning at a very, very young age. So in order to be accepted by people around me, I need to suppress what I am feeling. Otherwise, I become unacceptable. Why is this dangerous? Because later, the way, this is very stressful situation, because later this becomes pathology for ADD, ADHD, or depression, anxiety, etc. Because what's happening here is you have intense negative emotion. Okay, it's something that is stressful, and as a child, the only option you go for is freeze. So stress is basically your body's alarm system. Yeah, when when your brain picks up the cue that something is hazard, like dangerous, then you respond with fight, flight, freeze options. But as a child, you only go for freeze. For example, if somebody abuses you verbally right now, like, I don't know how old are you, maybe 35, 40, 30, if somebody abuses you, you can either confront, okay, talk back, argue back, or you can get up and leave the room, okay, or you can just shut down, completely ignore, and these would be your three options. But as a child, as an infant, you don't have the option to get up and leave. You can't leave your parents, and you don't have the option to talk back or argue back. So the only option you go to is freeze. And freeze basically means shut down parts of your brain. So you space out, you tune out. This is your coping mechanism. This is it. This is how the brain responds. And so we go through this. We go through this conditioning. So we condition to be accepted by those around us at the cost of suppressing ourselves. So if they don't acknowledge your emotions, or if they dismiss, you're not allowed to be angry, you're not allowed to be sad, then you freeze, 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 freeze. And remember, this is happening at the time your brain is developing fastest, between the age of 0 to 7. Yeah, 80% of your personality is formed. Like literally every minute, your brain is making billions of connections, and then continuously being asked freeze, freeze, shut down, space out, tune out, because you're being put in a very stressful situation by somebody who don't understand your emotions that you're experiencing. So you're not being seen, you're not being heard, you're not being understood. That's very stressful. What do? Freeze. So the brain is continuously being forced to freeze in order to get through this stressful situation. And if this is happening a lot between the age of 0 to 7, then yes, as an adult, then that becomes pathology for anxiety, ADHD, ADD, or depression, etc., etc. So it's very important to understand, the root cause of this. And so let go of the guilt. Let go of the guilt. It was not your fault. Okay, first of all, it wasn't your fault. And so this helps you, understanding helps you to drop the self-blame, to drop the self-judgment, and then letting go of these, old programs. You can let go. Self-regulation. You have to understand that emotions are separate to actions, right? So emotions should never be guilt-producing. We just need to find healthy outlets. If you're sad, you can say the dua like astaghfar, la ilaha illa ant subhanaka inni kuntu min adh-dhalimin, or even the other one, they call Sayyid al-Istighfar. The dua to say when you are upset is Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa anta khalaqtani wa ana abduka wa ana ala ahdika wa wadika mastatat wa a'udhu bika min sharri ma sanat wa abu'u laka bi ni'matika alayya wa abu'u bi dhanbi faghfir li fa innahu la yaghfiru adh-dhunuba illa ant. So these du'as it's very helpful when you feel down, when you feel low, sad, like this du'as and adhkar from the Quran, from the Sunnah, to help you overcome the sadness. And we have to use them. But allow yourself to process the feeling. This is the first one. And sorry, I didn't realize this is here. So self-regulation, yeah? First, like drop the self-blame, self-judgment, and then self-regulation, and then change your thoughts. It's something. Remember, feelings come as a result of thoughts. If you have angry thoughts, you will have angry feelings. If you have happy thoughts, you'll have happy feelings. So keep changing your thoughts. Keep changing your thoughts, and read a book, listen to podcasts, listen to Islamic lecture, watch something beneficial, read Quran translation in your own language. So this will give you different ideas to think about. Think next question 7. Sisters from the audience, do you have any questions? Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions from the audience? Inshallah, we'll continue. Okay, so far it's making sense, yeah? Everything I say so far is kind of, it builds on what we have taught in the course, during the course as well. So it's very important to be aware of your own emotional baggage. Where did they come from? Why do we behave like we are driven by emotions, not our intellect? Like human beings are very much driven by their emotions. And when we act on impulse, very often, it's based on irrational thinking, like irrational behavior. But once you're aware, then you can let go. Okay, inshallah. So we will continue with the questions. And I think the next one is, it's about, I read a lot about anger. I promised myself and I promised Allah not to be angry, but then I'm always angry again. I feel so guilty that it keeps me awake at night. What to do about anger? Can anyone else relate to this? Okay, Sister Hannah, yeah. Anyone else can relate to anger? It's very, again, going back to self-regulation. And the first thing to understand is it's okay to feel angry. Okay, it's okay to feel angry. After all, you are a human being, and human beings do get angry at times, which is fine feeling to have, when something goes wrong, there's something that I wanted to happen, it didn't happen. But what is not okay is acting out your anger. So what did the Prophet ﷺ said, this is why the Prophet ﷺ prohibited anger. Do not become your anger. When a man came to the Prophet and asked, give me advice, like nasiha, the Prophet ﷺ said, don't become angry. And the man asked second time, give me advice. He said, do not become angry. And he asked third time, give me advice. The Prophet ﷺ said, do not become angry. And he also said the powerful man is not the one who can wrestle, but the powerful man is the one who can control himself at the time of anger. Now, it's very easy for us, even for me, to read this hadith, but controlling anger shows strength of your personality. I know I have 6 kids myself. It's something very hard to do, especially when they don't listen, they talk back, argue. But we have to continuously strive, to continuously keep trying. Don't get caught in the laziness of just this is it. I'm fixed in my way. Maybe I'll change later when I'm older, wiser. Don't think like that. Try to control your anger, but understand that everyone gets angry. It's natural. And what does Allah say in the Quran about, he says in Surah Al-Ali Imran, those who spend in Allah's cause in prosperity, in adversity, who repress their anger, and who pardon men, verily Allah loves the al-muhsinin. So, this not becoming your anger is a sign of taqwa. But like I said, many scholars, if you read the sharh of this ayah, they've agreed that not getting angry is outside human nature, because we can't help but get angry sometimes, such as life. It's normal. But then we have a choice of not becoming our anger. You have a choice. And in Islamically, if you look at anger management, we've been given very practical tools. So firstly, what do you say when you get angry? What do we say when we get angry? What are we supposed to say? The Prophet ﷺ said, when you are angry, say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Yeah? He said, I know a phrase, the saying of which makes you relax, and if you say it, your anger will go away. Because anger is from shaitan. Generally, when we get angry, shaitan will have more influence over us. Yes, أعوذ بالله. Yes, Sister Anna. أعوذ بالله, أستغفر الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Firstly, yeah? So, say something from, أستغفر الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أعوذ بالله. Second, change your posture. So again, the Prophet ﷺ said, when one of you becomes angry while standing, he should sit down. If the anger leaves him, well and good. Otherwise, he should lie down. You change your physiology, because emotions affect your physiology. When you get angry, what happens? Your blood runs faster. Your heart beats faster. Your face goes red, heart palpitations, or even some cases your hands start shaking, or some people's legs start shaking. It affects your physiology, and it's. And thirdly, what is the worst thing we do when we get angry? Thank you. We often end up saying something that we regret later on, yeah? So controlling the tongue, keeping quiet. It's something that becomes quite impossible when you are angry. So you end up saying, mean and hurtful things, and then you end up regretting. We all do this. And obviously it's very difficult to say, oh, something nice, but the best thing is keep quiet. Keeping quiet. Just take a deep breath. It sends oxygen to your brain, which helps with chemical regulations in the brain, balance. Just hold it for 5 seconds. Exhale. Just say, A'udhu Billah. Astaghfirullah. Just keep quiet. Do that for 1-2 minutes. Even that is helpful. And fourthly, drinking water or washing face. The Prophet ﷺ said, anger comes from shaitan, and shaitan was created from fire. And the fire is extinguished only with water. So when one of you becomes angry, he should make wudu. And if you think about it, physically, anger, like I said, it hurts. If not controlled, it can have long-term harmful effects on you physically, because it creates health problems. Because anger, sends again to your brain, it's a stressful. So your body's alarm system is switched on. And to process that stress, your body produces more cortisol, which is stress hormone. So it helps you to get through this, but then it shuts down your immune system. It restricts your blood circulation, etc., etc. And really, socially, emotionally, physiologically, it's harmful. It can damage your relationships, which will cause emotional or social, mental damage in your life. And also leads to many health problems. Like I said, subhanAllah, and it's now a documented fact. It's not a airy-fairy thing. All illnesses has, some kind of emotional underpinnings, like asthma, like autoimmune diseases, like multiple sclerosis, all of them, but they are closely linked to anger or stress. And but inshallah, if we're aware of these, harmful sides of anger, then it's easy for us to regulate. Every time you're angry, it's like, Iroda, it's okay to be angry. I just need to find a healthy outlet. What is the healthy outlet? Go wash your face, make wudu, drink water, lie down, keep quiet, change your physiology, right? Take a deep breath. These are all healthy outlets to process your anger. Okay, and moving on. My question is validation. I seem to need it from everyone. Maybe it's a childhood wound, but you did validation from other. Yes. So about validation. Can anyone repeat? No, sorry, not repeat. Can anyone relate to this? Can you relate to this question? Do you feel like you need, a lot of validation from people around you? Now, what does validation mean? Remember, basically, it means seeking approval, yeah? Seeking approval. It means when other people can relate to your feelings and emotions. Now, if you remember the first lecture, why is there a need for validation? Because the desire for friendship, companionship, a sense of belonging, these desires arise from the limbic brain. We human beings are very much social creatures, and we have different desires like physical, social, spiritual. Again, as a child, if you were emotionally neglected, your emotions dismissed, not acknowledged, then this part of the brain does not develop optimally. Right? What did I say about fight, flight, freeze option? So which you know, if you were verbally abused, humiliated, you know, talked down, belittled as a child, right? And then what does your brain do? Fight, flight, freeze. Which option does it give you? It only gives you freeze option, right? So the only way for you to cope is to space out, tune out, shut down parts of your brain. Now, this, if you understand this, then it helps you to show empathy with and understanding with regards to your children. So, and then you find this, you know, the people talk about self-love, self-love. It's not about loving yourself. It's about validating yourself. It's about regulating yourself. So it's not about like keep buying the next item from Body Shop in the name of self-care, you know, like go to the next facial. No, 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 no. The real self-love is being able to validate yourself, to regulate your own emotions, so you are not seeking it from any other external means. Do you understand? Am I making sense? So it comes from within. It comes from within. Like you create it with your mind, you create the world. It's the internal that creates your world. It's not the external. It's not the external. So yes, look back. Self-regulation, you know, just some practical tips could be repeat every morning. It's okay to feel this. It will pass. Everything is temporary. It's just a phase. It will pass. And this is validating yourself, yeah? And remember, emotions are a result of also thoughts. So don't personalize things. Don't overthink about the matters. Basically, when you overthink, you know, you have this overturning mind. This is shaitan using your mind to plant seeds of negativity. You can change your thoughts. But in order to change your thoughts, you have to feed your mind with inspiring ideas, like coming to this class. Read a book, listen to a talk to someone who inspires you. And the four, have boundaries. Boundaries. This is the most important one. So you need to identify and establish your boundaries. Because what happens is, you know, when we constantly seek validation and approval of other people's around us, number one, it's impossible. You can't please people all the time. So you go to extreme measures. Again, you're not doing this consciously, you know, you do this unconsciously. So what do? You keep saying yes to everyone and everything. And in the long run, this makes you full of resentment, bitterness. You want to please people sometimes because you're seeking validation and approval. And so you try even at the cost of your own well-being. All of this just so you get a sense of belonging, you know, this is the unmet need from your childhood. So you have to know your boundaries. You have to know when to say no, when to say yes, and really internalize the belief that people's opinions of you will always be based on self-interest. You can never please everyone in your life, and you can, even if you can do, it's not all the time. So focus on your relationship with Allah instead, and inshaAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring the right people to you at the right time. So don't try to latch on to everyone you meet in life. You don't have to be part of every social gathering. You know, you don't have to like everyone, and vice versa. Not everybody has to like you. It's just life. It's normal, right? Okay. We'll just, I think that was, yep, that was the end of the questions. And now we will take one or two questions from the audience. We have question from Sister Hannah. It says, any tips for filling our own cups? My children are very, very small. Yes, I have I'm just trying to open my book, Bloom Where You Are Planted. Believe it or not, once I sat down and made a list of 30 things I can do to fill up my own cup. And I gave the list in Bloom Where You Are Planted. It's the chapter 1, steps and strategies for self-love. Again, self-love doesn't mean like, keep buying things in the name of self-love. It means empowering yourself, looking introspectively, looking internally, and gaining the right knowledge and empowering yourself. So, how to fill your own cup with a very small children? Morning and evening adhkar. Make time to recite your daily adhkars. It's, I can't stress the importance of this enough. It makes a huge difference to how your day rolls on and how it ends. And it's something that gives the best start to your day. In the morning, just say your morning adhkar. It lifts your soul up. It gives barakah to your day. It also refills your spiritual tank. Reading Quran. I don't need to say more, yeah? Just aim a portion that's manageable by you. If it's 2 lines, 2 lines. If it's 1 line, 1 line. If it's half a page, and try to understand. Read in Arabic and try to understand the meanings. And the best app I can recommend is Tafsir al-Quran word by word. The next thing you can do is journaling. It's not something that takes hours and hours. Just try 5-10 minutes. The thing is, we all have massive mental space in our mind. And what does research say? Research states that on average, a person may have, guess how many thoughts a day? Thousands, tens of thousands of daydreams or thoughts a day. And there's something funny about this research, because 80% of the time these thoughts are not related to what you are doing at hand. So they are unrelated and independent to one's current task. So be aware of your thoughts. So what thoughts are filling up this massive mental space in your head? What is your subconscious mind telling you daily? Notice your feelings just under the surface. And for that, the best thing is journaling. And don't worry about organizing your paragraphs, fancy genre and grammar, spelling, punctuation. Just put the timer on for 10 minutes and just write. This is really, really the journaling. And if you need help, you can buy, this is why I created mindfulness journal and gratitude journal to help you guide through journaling if you are somebody new to journaling, yeah? You can do something to keep fit, like 5 minutes stretch. I usually do before bedtime. It really helps me to get into sleep mode. I try to go for a walk, a couple of times, and read a book. These are all practical tips. Gratitude journaling. You can practice gratitude every morning as soon as you wake up. Okay, 3 things I'm grateful for today. Right? It consciously puts you in that grateful state of mind. Write a thank you note. Find somebody, a friend, a colleague, a partner, or even your own child who does things without being told. Just write a thank you note. This is really, really good. And so these are some of the tips from my book, Bloom Where You Are Planted. I have a list of 30 things you can do to fill your own cup. Anyone else has any questions? Okay, we have 3 more minutes. if no questions, then I would like to wrap up today's session, inshaAllah. Jazakallah khayr for attending live. And remember, some of you asked for Raising Righteous, the complete course. It is now available to buy as a complete course. I think if you buy it now, it's 50% off. So this will include 4 webinar recordings plus the PDF notes. It comes with lifetime access, so you can listen again and again. You can take notes again and again, watch again and again. So it's 50% off at the moment. And those of you who purchased individual webinars, you can also purchase the remaining webinars at $566. I think they've also been reduced to 1/3 of the original price, inshallah. So with that being said, I think I would have to wrap up this session, and Jazakallah khair for attending this live, and inshallah may Allah grant us all tawfiq to really implement what we have learned, inshallah. So, subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.